What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer-mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
That's right, it's intermission. Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde.
That is correct.
I know my 80s Pac-Man trivia.
Okay, well, what was Pac-Man's kid's name?
Junior.
Duh.
What?
Duh.
Welcome to Toker Talk Radio, everyone. I'm Radical Russ. That's Brian the Red. And we're just hanging out here. And I had to get out of that shirt. It's a weird shirt. I wore it, but it's a weird shirt. So I'm just down to my t-shirt, which is my oldest marijuana reform t-shirt. It's Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards 2005. It's a half hemp, half cotton shirt. And it's still holding up pretty good. No frayed edges, no nothing, right?
That was, let's see, that one was at the Ambridge Event Center?
Yeah, that would have been an Ambridge.
Before they tore it down.
Yeah.
Moved it and then tore it
So yeah, it's weird to think that I got activism shirts that are 9 years old now. Although this is technically closer to 8 because it was in December, right? So
technicalities.
Closer to 8. But anyway, welcome to the show. And coming up a little bit later, I have got a Stupid Prohibition Story that kind of is more make you angry than laugh, but I'll read that to you. And then we've also got a radical rant that I was going to do at the end of the show today, but then I remembered, oh my God, we've got the Coleco thing. So you kind of get a bonus today, a radical rant, because, you know, the tax revenue numbers came out for January for Colorado, $2.1 million in tax revenue. And the prohibitionists from Project Sam are crowing about it.
Scoff.
They're saying it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough tax revenue. Like, you know, we were taking in zero before.
Yeah.
And now 2.1 million. Why, that's not enough. Okay. So we'll cover that in a radical rant to come forward later on the show. Also want to remind you, next week is Spanibus Week. Here on 420 Radio, we'll have Gordon Green calling in on our first hour and giving us, or actually recording segments for us for our first hour that we'll be playing in place of the radical rants. I will also have some video from the marijuana business fair that's going on this weekend up in Seattle. I'll be heading up to Seattle on Friday night in the Amtrak train, and we'll head up there with the Magical Butter people and take some video with our new video camera situation there and bring it to you on next week's shows. On next week's shows, on Thursday, I will be flying out, so we may not have an actual show Thursday, but on Friday we will, because I will be in Atlanta, Georgia for the Southern Cannabis Reform Conference that takes place on that Saturday. And then the following week, during the next week, I'm going to spend the next week in the South, some of it in Northern Georgia, some of it for my first time ever in South Carolina. Never been to South Carolina.
South Carolina, man.
Never been to South Carolina. I'm going to head up there with Big Daddy Fink.
Alrighty.
Going to be all right. So
good times.
I can cross another state. That'll be my 20th state.
Cross off the list.
That's right. All right. What else? Oh, yes. We have to remind everyone that we've got 420 coming up. It's on Easter Sunday.
Woot.
Do you see the meme going around with the stoned Easter bunny with the joint?
No, not yet.
420's on Easter. Yeah.
No, but, you know, you could have an adult Easter egg hunt, you know, if you don't have any kids.
Medicated cream eggs.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, get a bunch of those little plastic eggs and put weed in them. Or like a little container with some oil.
Yeah,
or
there you
something.
go.
That would be badass.
Adult Easter oil hunt.
Hey, somebody on the High Times crew, get on that for the Hemp Fest.
For the
cup. Sorry, not
an Easter oil hunt.
Yeah, an Easter Earl hunt.
Not a bad idea. I kind of like that.
An Earlster egg hunt.
Ulster egg. There we go. All right. And then before I go, just to let you know what was going on with Be Real today, Coral Reefer, who you know from our network, Stony Sundays, has an Instagram account where she posts lots of pictures. She posts pictures of herself. Sometimes they're somewhat naked. Sometimes they're all naked, but you can't see nothing, right? But, sexy kind of pictures. Well, she had posted this sexy picture of her backside and her little tattoos on her thighs, right? And, well, it ended up on the Instagram account of Be Real TV with Be Real TV's logo on it and no credit to Coral Reefer whatsoever. So I woke up this morning and she was all upset about that on Twitter. And so I took a look at the picture and well, yeah, here you are taking someone's picture, no credit. That ain't cool, right? And especially because it's not like she just posts those pictures for fun. I mean, that's her job. It's kind of her gig. Yeah. It's how she gets donations and such, right? It's her moneymaker. So
in this case, literally,
I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying that's the way. That's her way she earns a living, right? So I thought it was uncool, and I called him out on it, and I said, and what really had bothered me about it is when she had called him out on it, got an excuse back that it was the fault of some stoned interns. And then no offer to take it down or apologize or anything, right? That's where it really kind of bugged me because, in the internet age, it's really easy to cut and paste or post something and not attribute it. And I'm sure I've done it more than once, I'm sure. But when I'm called on it, I apologize and I take it down, or I put the credit up, or whatever it is, make the link, whatever it is that's required of it. So that's all the problem that I had. And I'd called him out on it and it did the right thing. Came out, took the picture down, and apologized for it publicly. So that, we're all good. I'm like, hey, that's cool. Be Real got in touch with me privately on Twitter, too, and we hashed things out, to pardon the pun. But as far as I can tell, everything's cool. We're fine. Because I don't got no beef with Be Real. I think what he's doing with TV and recording and education out there is top notch. I mean, who the hell am I, right? But just everything's cool now. That's just kind of the way Twitter works. A little self-correcting universe that we got going on. And I'm glad it worked out for the best for everyone. All right. That's not where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be there. So let's take a break. Having a fun time with the Liebermater tonight. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have our stupid stoner story. We will also talk about Sanjay Gupta's documentary and a radical rant. So lots coming up in hour 2. Stay tuned. It's Toker Talk Radio.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Cast your eyes up to the skies. What is it to live and die?
I'm Radical Russ Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier-to-remember ncc420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text Russ to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana legalization public radio. 420 Radio, your ticket to Seattle Hemp Fest. The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the best way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com.
Stupid Prohibition Stories. As a public service, the Russ Belville Show reminds you that smoking marijuana does not make one stupid. However, some stupid people do smoke marijuana, and prohibition is always waiting for another victim. Learn your lesson from today's Stupid Prohibition Stories.
With your Stupid Prohibition Stories, I'm old-timey 1920s radio reporter Freddie Farrock. This just in, a Bozeman, Montana couple is accused of letting a 2-year-old smoke marijuana. Lucas Keith Wilson and Camilla Rose Samuels were each charged with single counts of felony and misdemeanor endangering the welfare of a child. On August 8th, Samuel's mother told investigators she had found a video on her daughter's iPhone that showed Wilson's 2-year-old son putting a smoking pipe in his mouth. Samuel's mother was unsure if the boy had ingested any drugs. I'm Freddie Farrock with your Stupid Prohibition Stories. All right. So here's let me get our side out of the way first. And that would be felony endangerment of a child for smoking pot.
Here's my part of it.
Oops, sorry.
Here's my side of it. Dumbass.
Right. Yeah, before we get to the dumbass part.
Oh, okay.
And it gets dumbassier.
Oh, yes.
Oh, it gets far dumbassier. But before dumbassier. But before we get there,
the dumbassiest.
It's far too egregious a charge for felony child endangerment if indeed the kid had inhaled marijuana smoke from a pipe. And we don't even know that from what you read so far, right?
Yeah, just put it in his mouth from the video. Can't tell if there's any ingestion, any inhalation.
Here's where it takes a turn for the worst. The cops interviewed Lucas and Camilla, the young couple. They interviewed the investigators, and they both said they had been living together in a trailer when she got pregnant. In January, they started drinking and smoking both marijuana and meth, including in front of her already 2-year-old boy. So she's pregnant with a new kid, and she's already got a 2-year-old. They're living in a trailer, drinking, smoking pot, and smoking meth.
That's child endangerment on 2 counts because she's pregnant.
Right. So yeah, she's using meth while she's pregnant. Again, but let me go on. During her second trimester, she tested positive for drugs and was evicted from her home. Well, I'm sure that helped. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's make them homeless. That'll help the kids.
Yeah, that'll stop their drug problem.
So then they moved to Washington State, where they continued to use marijuana and meth. Now remember, this is the couple telling the cops this. Okay. So they moved to Washington. They continued to use marijuana and meth. Then they decided to come back to Montana. They said they intended to distribute marijuana and meth from Washington to Montana. However, the couple consumed all the substances they had by the time they got back to Montana. So now you're telling the cops that you want to do interstate trafficking of marijuana and meth, but the dumbassery is so extreme, you couldn't even stop getting high on your own supply. The first rule of drug dealing, don't get high on your own supply. When the couple returned to Bozeman, they said they lived in a tent at the Sunrise Campground where the video of the 2-year-old boy with the pipe was taken. The couple told investigators the 2-year-old boy was allowed to smoke marijuana 5 times once they returned to Bozeman. So, had it just been mom with the cell phone, the case would be trying to prove that any smoke actually came out of that pipe into that kid's lungs. But no, you've got them on tape talking to investigators, both of them saying that they smoked marijuana 5 times. Now, the couple has pleaded not guilty.
To what?
They've pleaded not guilty. But
to having a brain?
There we go. So
They have pleaded
the
not
father,
guilty to having an intelligence level.
the father said the boy would get mellower after smoking. He said he didn't know why he let the boy smoke marijuana and said it was pretty stupid that he allowed him to do it. Wilson also told investigators that while the couple was in the hospital when their child was born, the two would smoke marijuana outside of the hospital. The couple's baby tested positive for marijuana and meth when he was born. Now, where do you go with a story like this, right? Because I don't think these people should be doing jail time. I don't think they should be raising kids at this point. It doesn't sound like the best parenting situation going on here. And this is not to say that people who use marijuana or even people that use speed are per se bad parents. But these two sound to me like a couple of bad parents who happen to use meth and speed.
They've gone ahead and proven it. They've removed the shadow of a doubt that they should not be, at current, time, they should not be in possession of these children.
Yeah. And again, if you are these people, now, look, I can understand, a parent who might say, look, my kid is colicky, kid is teething, kid's in pain, and I smoked some joint and shotgunned a little into his mouth or into his lungs. I could mount a defense to that.
Yeah, but
I can mount a defense to that.
But getting the bowl cherried and handing it off to your 2-year-old,
I don't know that I have a defense for that.
That's not smart.
Yeah, it's very difficult for me to defend. And then once you throw the meth in there, the meth use in there, and again, I try not to demonize other drugs, but I'm also cognizant of the social perception of meth. It's the new,
Well, I've known people who it's destroyed, so I can vouch for,
been there, done that.
Can see
got
it.
the T-shirt.
Yeah.
And and during my time, during the year and a half that I was involved with meth, saw some kids in some pretty shitty circumstances. So I know exactly what you're talking about, man. So this story troubles me a bunch. I just don't know what to do about it. Now, Tycombe in the chat room is saying they should both be forced to get fixed. I don't know. I think there's a chance for rehabilitation. These kids might have severe issues, and maybe they get their kids taken away, maybe get counseling.
But still, the possibility of them breeding is there. So getting them.
I can't ever support any sort of forced sterilizations. I can't support forced. When they want to tell you, cut the nuts off of a child predator. No, I can't support that either. I can't support forced mutilations. Can't support forced sterilizations. Anything like that. I can support controls on what these kids are doing, though, man. It's tough because I want to be a civil libertarian. I want to be Mr. Support freedom and everything. But on the other hand, I don't want 2-year-olds to suffer. That's a tough thing. And what about the children gets used against us a lot, but there's an element of truth to it.
Well, and not just the 2-year-old, the fetus, but that's another story.
Well, yeah.
It did make it. She did give birth to it, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So it's a person now.
Kid was born, positive for marijuana and meth. And again, I don't have.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that their entire life is going to be screwed up.
Yeah.
But if they were allowed to be staying with the those same parents, there's a good possibility it's not going to get any better.
Yeah. And again, the scare of, oh my God, kid born with crack or coke or any of the meth in their system. Yeah. The scares of that are far overblown, but I still don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, gosh, what are we gonna? What do you do? How do you handle this?
Sometimes it's just another. Okay, I've held this belief for a long time. That there are some people who think that just because they smoke weed, they're cool. Mm-hmm. No, you don't. Smoking weed does not make you cool.
Any more than having dreadlocks makes you a reggae star.
No doubt. Yeah, there's too many people I've seen with them beauty parlor dreadlocks that just...
That's right.
They don't fly. Sorry, Steve.
Hey, it's 4:20 here. It's 4:20 here in the Pacific time zone. So I hope you're having a good time. When we come back, we'll have time for a radical rant on the spinning of Colorado's tax numbers. Stick around.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Cannabis Outreach Collective is an alternative health and wellness option located in Gladstone, Oregon, that serves patients in the Portland area and beyond. We are a full-service alternative health and wellness collective accommodating patients with natural, organic, holistic, and homeopathic remedies, nutritional guidance, advice, education, and medical cannabis, fully in accordance with Oregon OMMP law. You can find out more about Cannabis Outreach Collective on Facebook at COC503 or by emailing cannabisoutreachcollective503@gmail.com or by telephone at 503-853-1319. Check out our menu on Weed Maps and visit Cannabis Outreach Collective today.
Marijuana, do you wanna? Mary, do you wanna tonight?
As marijuana goes mainstream, you need to be armed with the facts. Nobody can teach you better than Dr. Mitch Earlywine, Ph.D. You may know Dr. Mitch from his column in High Times magazine or his weekly appearance on The Russ Belville Show. Dr. Mitch is also the author of some of the best books on marijuana science, culture, history, and health, including Understanding Marijuana, Parents' Guide to Marijuana, Pot Politics, and more. Visit Amazon.com and search for Mitch Earlywine, that's EARLEYWINE, and order your books today. You can also contact Dr. Mitch by email at 420research@gmail.com. Cannabis Cure TV with Greg DeHote from Sussex, England, every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT, right here on 420radio.org.
Welcome back, everybody. That's music from God Forbid with To the Fallen Hero. Raw.
Some herb thrasher stuff.
That's right.
There. Friday nights.
Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the Dr. Sanjay Gupta documentary last night, because I got involved in some Twitter wars with the prohibitionists over it. Me and Dan Riffle from MPP and Tom Angel from Marijuana Majority. We hound them mercilessly. It's a lot of fun. And it's going to be interesting to see them spin their way out of Dr. Sanjay Gupta, going to GW Pharmaceuticals. Of course, they'll say, well, see, GW, we support that. But really, he was saying, yeah, we support that too. But until that's ready, let the people have the plant.
Yeah.
And that's the difference is, see, with the medical marijuana thing that Project Sam's all about, with, letting it be pharmaceuticalized and standardized and all that, hey, there's a lot of legit argument to that. A lot of patients could really benefit if they could go buy something where every single damn time they knew they were getting the exact thing they needed, and they could take it in exact dosage. We're all for that.
Freaking awesome for something.
Until then, let them have a plan. Their attitude is, well, just let them suffer until somebody, the FDA, allows them to have a clinical trial, and that just won't cut it.
That won't fly.
But that also, so we'll have to address how they spin that later. But right now, we're going to address how they're spinning the tax revenue from Colorado in our late Radical Rant.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Colorado released its sales and tax revenue figures for the first month of legal pot sales, showing $14 million in recreational marijuana sold, bringing in $2.1 million in revenue for the state. Now, despite that being about $2.1 million more than the state has ever earned in the recreational marijuana market, the prohibitionists with Patrick Kennedy's Cohurst Rehab All Potheads Project, SAM, are complaining that there wasn't enough tax revenue earned in January. Quote, "It appears that Colorado is falling well short of the state's revenue projection from marijuana sales," barked Kevin Sabet. "Instead, the number from January is less than 2 million, far below estimates claimed by both the governor and legalization advocates." End quote. Christine Tatum, the wife of Denver rehab entrepreneur Dr. Christian Thurstone, took to Twitter to screech, quote, "Can't wait to see how Colorado makes up $132 million in projected tax revenue in 5 months. Hashtag science, not rhetoric." Now, the game here is to try to bolster their talking point that we legalizers are lying to the voters when we claim marijuana taxation will bring great windfall to the state. They often like to compare it to legalizing the lottery or casino gambling, without considering that the tax revenue and public safety generated by state-run gaming is far greater now than it was when mobsters were running it. Still, we should take a look at the figures and examine their claim. According to reports in the Denver Post from last month, the governor's office projected $35.3 million in estimated revenue for the current fiscal year. Either Christine Tatum doesn't understand how subtraction works or how fiscal years work. Colorado's current fiscal year runs from July of 2013, before pot sales were open, through June of 2014. So yes, there are 5 more months of tax revenues to make up, but only $33 million to make up, not $132 million. Where did she come up with $132 million, you ask? That was the estimate for the recreational and medical sales combined for the full 12-month fiscal year that starts in July of 2014. But what of Kevin Sabet's claims that revenues are falling well short? Well, let's think about that. By my math, the original estimate of $35.3 million in the current fiscal year works out to about $5.9 million in tax revenues per month. All right, so sure, yeah, we're coming in a bit over 1/3 what the governor projected, and that does seem a little low. Until you read the fine print. Estimating how much money you'd make selling something that's never been legally sold before isn't an exact science. The $35.3 million revenue estimate came with this important caveat, quote, "We anticipate that these projections will change monthly as more data is collected, and actual revenue could fall short of these projections." End quote. Now, what considerations could make these revenues fall short? Recall that during January, as lines snaked around the block, the few pot shops that were open were restricting their sales volume to avoid running out of product. The Denver Channel reported in the first week how retailers were, quote, "limiting customers to 1/8 of an ounce," end quote, due to the fact their inventory was a fraction of the product from their medical plants. Retailers couldn't produce enough product to meet customer demand. The governor's original estimate was based on $117.8 million in sales, which works out to be $19.6 million per month. January tallied $14 million in sales. Do you suppose if customers could have purchased the full ounce they're legally permitted, sales might have topped that $19.6 million? Also, consider that financial projections aren't made in a linear fashion, as if $2.1 million in taxes and $14 million in revenue are going to be the consistent figures going forward. Monthly figures should increase. First, as more pot shops open, and second, as the recreational marijuana crop that couldn't be planted until January 1st finally gets harvested. Kevin Sabet, though? No, not him. He's doubling down on his infamous Sabet conjecture. He continues, quote, "Of course, just like alcohol and tobacco revenue, we know that sales of this intoxicant will bring in far less than the cost of its use. In fact, every $1 in alcohol and tobacco revenue the state gains comes at a price of $10 in lost social costs." End quote. Okay. Well, by that measure, then, there should have been $21 million in additional social costs in January due to legalized marijuana. And that would be $21 million in costs that didn't already exist before, when most of these same people were already smoking pot, even though it was illegal at the time. I mean, hell, even if marijuana legalization was a break-even proposition, even if it only brought in $2.1 million to cover $2.1 million in alleged new social costs, that would still be more than offset by the costs we didn't spend on law enforcement. And not just the less than 1 ounce cases that went away post-legalization, but also the 80%, actually it's 75%, of the more than an ounce and cultivation cases that disappeared too, because pot stopped being a probable cause and drug dogs stopped alerting for pot. According to the Colorado Center on Law and Policy before the election, they estimated law enforcement savings of $12 million a year, so that's another $1 million to offset whatever new social costs there were. But Kevin Sabet has already cranked up that vision of Colorado's marijuana peril, warning, quote, "Already, legalization in Colorado has been characterized by children visiting hospital emergency rooms for marijuana poisonings from pot cookies, increased marijuana use in schools, and a 40% increase in workplace and school drug tests." End quote. Look, Kevin, nobody wants to see kids accidentally ingesting medibles, but poison is a substance with an inherent property that tends to destroy life or impair health. None of those kids have died or suffered lasting health effects. And nobody wants more school children using pot recreationally, but are they swapping it out for the alcohol use that's continuing to decline? And more workplace drug tests just tell us more people smoke pot. That's unsurprising now that it's legal. But even if I give Kevin Sabet the benefit of a metric buttload of doubt, does he really think a few kids accidentally eating Chiba Chews cost Colorado $2.1 million? Kevin Sabet and Christine Tatum are trying to paint a picture where marijuana legalizers promise this absolutely harmless plant would raise billions of dollars and solve all the world's problems. And to be fair, there are some stoners out there who believe that. But all we promised is that it's less harmful than legal alcohol and tobacco. We promised that it will transfer the current dollars from untaxed criminals to taxed businesses. We promised it will redirect law enforcement to actual crimes. And we promised it will provide a safer, better, labeled product for the current consumers. And we promised it would provide instruction on safe, responsible use for the new consumers that weren't getting that out of prohibition. All right, there you go. There's a little bonus radical rant for the day. You can check out my Twitter account out at Radical Russ. I'm having trouble with my mouth right now. Sorry. You can check out my Twitter account at Radical Russ if you want to follow the Twitter war with me and Christine Tatum. My favorite part is when she makes a claim and then I ask her to show the data. She tells me to go look it up. I love that. Or calls me a name. That's always fun.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs, get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs, we've got frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs. We've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. We'll see you at this year's Hemp Fest. Crank it up.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
I'll say, little red collar, darling, your much too fierce. Little red collar, you need a lover that's gonna lay.
420 Radio, your ticket to the High Times Cannabis Cups.
If you're an adult who enjoys a good beer, there's a similar product you might want to know about. One without all the calories and serious health problems. Less toxic so it doesn't cause hangovers or overdose deaths, and it's not linked to violence or reckless behavior. Marijuana, less harmful than alcohol, and time to treat it that way. For more information, visit marijuanaissafer.org.
The following program is sponsored by the National Pharmaceutical Association. Side effects may include dizziness, nausea, memory loss, increased appetite, rainbow vision, the ability to levitate, and of course, cotton mouth.
Let's do drugs. Let's do some drugs together. Let's do drugs. Let's do some drugs together. 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 If I do drugs and you do drugs, let's do some drugs together. Cause doing drugs by yourself is fun, but with friends it's so much better. Let's do drugs. Let's do some drugs together. Let's do drugs. Let's do some drugs together.
Hey there, kids, well here's a fun song, so grab your glass ball and come sing along. Dirt ball, bras, some mushroom tea. We got Viking and Percocets and ecstasy. BB's got an 8-ball of yayo. One more thing I forgot to say, yo. These drugs got a bad reputation unless you the one who decides to take it.
Welcome back, everybody. Toker Talk Radio, 37 after the hour, 38 after the hour. My clocks aren't synced up. It's bothering me. I have these atomic clocks, right? They pick up the signal from the National Institutes of Standards and whatever it is.
Standards and practices?
Whatever it is. Yeah, weights and measures. I don't know. Anyway, it picks up the atomic signal. They're Radio Shack clocks, by the way. And you know Radio Shack closed 1,100 stores? Yeah, they're closing 1,100 stores. According to Saturday Night Live, they couldn't compete with the Onward March of Time.
You mean the Tandy Computer Shack has closed?
Yeah, that's right.
1,100?
1,100 stores, yeah.
Wow.
We shall see.
All the people out there who remember Tandy Computer Shack.
Yeah, give me a Tandy computer. Yeah. I had a Trash 80.
Yeah, yep.
I had one of those. But anyway, where was I going? Oh, yeah.
Nostalgia.
Sorry, I got lost in nostalgia. There was a story I didn't get to.
Right, sidetracked there.
The story I didn't get to in the news that I had the headline up. I want to make sure that I covered that before the show was over. And that was coming out of Kentucky, where Senator Denise Harper Angel has filed Senate Bill 326 to mandate clinical trials on medical marijuana. Her plan would direct $14 million toward trials at the University of Louisville through a 20-year program to be amended every 2 years. The other public university, University of Kentucky, would be eligible to apply for up to $14 million more. This bill would augment another bill, Senate Bill 124, which would legalize cannabidiol for physicians to prescribe at the public universities if they're conducting FDA-approved trials. Oh, well, but it's Kentucky. What are you going to get through the Kentucky legislature, right? That's that. The SB 124 is still in the Senate, I believe. They're still talking about it. It's still moving forward, and it is a cannabidiol only at the university hospitals, only under FDA trials.
Cannabidiol. No.
And I really hope that Dr. Gupta's documentary last night will open some of these people's minds up to how insane it was. You know, the main thrust, I would say, of the show was the whole medical marijuana migration, right? The immigrants, the Underground Railroad. That's what it seemed like was the main focus, because they kept showing all these families with their kids who'd had to leave, and they had all these quotes from them. You know, I can't go back to my state, and I had to leave everything behind, and so forth. So that's going to really pull on the heartstrings of America, and it's going to make lawmakers in these states, it's going to put more pressure on these guys in Kentucky and Louisiana and all these other places to just move forward with the oil. And Dr. Gupta did a great job of kind of showing all the roadblocks and all of the all the insanity of our government's stand on medical use of cannabis. But to me, what was highly offensive was seeing Patrick Kennedy there being interviewed by Dr. Gupta. Because Patrick Kennedy's smart enough to know, he's not the smartest guy, but he's smart enough to know that he can't fuck with Dr. Gupta, right? That he can't pull any of this, 90% of the patients are getting it for pain, and we don't smoke opium, right? You can bring out the standard lines, right? So, and you can see it. You can see it in the guy like, oh shit. And they're in a spot now where, there's this cascading fall now, this drip, drip, drip of good news about marijuana that they're continuing to have to bat away and continuing to have to refine their position to seem like they're not the terrible ogres, right? That they're not the drug warriors. So Patrick Kennedy's on the Gupta special talking about how, the federal government should get behind this, and they've really dropped the ball on not going forward with these It's like, Jesus, the federal government. Who the fuck was in the House of Representatives in 2006 when this shit was? Oh yeah, you supported it back then. Yeah. That's right. He supported it back when he was in the House, but then I got out, and now everybody's got to die. For him to try to do this pirouette, this little spin of Project Sam's position, as if they're big supporters of making sure patients are taken care of, is just becoming more and more transparently false to everybody who hears and sees it. When you know their position is, yeah, sure, those epileptic kids should get some oil, but only if it's in an FDA-controlled clinical trial, and you know how far away that is. I mean, Dr. Gupta was interviewing the one doctor who's finally got approval, and it's not for plants and it's not for CBD oil. It's to be able to test Epidiolex. They didn't mention that. Epidiolex is the name of the drug he's going to be testing out of GW Pharmaceuticals, which is their whole plant extract of high CBD strain.
Yeah, it's a 1-1 ratio. Yeah. THC CBD.
No, that's the Sativex.
Oh, that is?
Sativex is the one for multiple sclerosis. That's the spray that's the 1-to-1. This is the new one they've come up with. Epidiolex.
Okay.
This is recent.
The ratio is on that?
I don't know the ratio on it, but I know this is basically their.
I know it's a whole plant extract.
It's a whole plant, and it's their answer to all these people that are getting Charlotte's Web oil. That's what it is. And that's why I kept telling everybody, I've been saying it for years now about this box canyon, about the direction that medical marijuana heads is eventually into the pockets of GW Pharmaceuticals. They're eventually, people that need it medically who have very serious, undeniable conditions for which you can use medical cannabis are going to get their pill, their spray, their inhaler, their rub, and it's going to be under GW Pharma, and it's going to be sold at Walgreens and Walmart. And you'll be able to get your $4 prescription card for it, and it'll be covered by health insurance. And meanwhile, those of us who like the whole plant will still be denigrated as the hippies and the new agers and the dead enders and the whatever they want to use to denigrate us for using a plant.
Yeah. When it's the, terpenes and their pharmacological effect, that work in symbiosis with or in conjunction with the cannabinoids to create the medicine. Yeah. And it's not like you can just take constituents out of something that's developed over, all time and say, oh, well, this is better. Synthetics are just fake. That's all they are.
But this is the biggest hurdle that medical marijuana has always faced is in its attempt to completely redefine the paradigm of Western medicine. Because it's bigger than just they don't like the cannabis plant. It's that they don't like self-medication. Where we are with medicine in America, the Western world, let's just say, where we are with medicine in the Western world today is where Catholicism was about 1600, late 1500s, right? When Martin Luther said, hey, wait a minute, we don't need to go to the father, to the bishop, to the cardinal, to the pope, to Jesus. We can just go straight to Jesus. He nailed that up on the wall, and there you go. You got your Protestant Reformation. You got your major schism in the Christian church between two paradigms. One paradigm that says to achieve salvation, you have to go through a learned hierarchical class, and the other paradigm that says you can achieve salvation on your own. I'm not ruling on the religion thing. They're both silly to me. But it has a cultural paradigm to medical marijuana in that we have a Western medicine that says you got to go to the guy with the white coat who's got the diploma, who spent the years in school, to get the medicine that was made, extracted from plants and other sources, and then turned into some sort of medicine by the learned class of pharmacists and chemists and whatever, versus the medical marijuana and Eastern Chinese type medicine paradigm that says you prevent things from happening by working in harmony with nature and utilizing the tools that the nature's toolbox gives you first before you start hacking away with pharmaceuticals and stuff. That's how big this is. We're talking about an entire change in paradigm in medicine. That's why medical marijuana has been so revolutionary in that sense. But that kind of change, that big kind of change, takes more than just laws and more than just activism. That's like cultural. That's like another generation of doctors is going to have to be born and died.
Well, but it's like you said, it's that drip, drip of knowledge, little drip, drip, that they're going to have to keep on either ignoring or accept finally, it's like water torture.
Yeah. Yeah. And the problem is, all right, before I forget, I get so many things. There's so many things I wanted to say about this Gupta thing. The other thing I wanted to bring up was I was really hoping to get more from this documentary on the various uses of cannabis for various patients. And I was afraid, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I only recall seeing like one guy who was a pot smoker who smoked high THC cannabis, and it was for his pain in his knee or whatever. He's a former football player, right? That was the only one guy I saw. And it didn't give enough credence to, hey, we need to consider, THC is important too. Now, Dr. Mitchullam did talk about that entourage effect and whole plant effect, which was great. I just would have liked to have seen more focus on THC as a medicine.
It's a broader medicine, not just as the cannabis or the cancer kind of,
right?
And
because when you have that shot of the guy who was the former football player, he's smoking a bong and using it for pain, right? That you got your audience member out there who can dismiss that, who can say, yeah, he's faking it or whatever. He'd be just fine with Advil or whatever, right? They can dismiss that. Had there been more, the vet with PTSD, the mom with social anxiety disorder.
Well, I like to point out the vets with phantom limb pain that get helped by cannabis.
Yeah, or even bravely Michaela for that matter. Cancer and chemotherapy and all that. So, but maybe the editorial decision is that, hey, people already accept medical marijuana for cancer and pain and all those stuff. But I don't know. I can't second guess, but I guess I am. But the stuff on Mitchullam and the whole plant, I thought that was really, really good. The only thing, I guess my worry is that the documentary can be taken as yet more promotion and endorsement of this CBD revolution.
Yeah,
people might accept it as that, even though there was a lot of those kids that they were showing there. I know some of those kids as cases. They're using THC.
Yeah.
So
they're using whole plant extract, which is a lot more than just the THC and the CBD.
But maybe we get weed 3. Maybe he comes out with weed 3, and we get more THC talk.
Maybe we should have some of these patients get some of their oil tested and send the test results to him. Say, look at the cannabinoid profile on this. It's not just this or that.
Yeah.
It's a broad range,
Another scene that I thought was really telling is when the Wilsons finally got access to what was supposed to be a high CBD plant out of New Jersey, out of their New Jersey dispensary. But but since in New Jersey, edibles and oils and stuff aren't legal, you can only get the plant. The guys are handing them this bottle of plant. And like, okay, so how do I make oil out of it? Well, we don't know.
Well, we can't tell you that.
So they track down some recipes apparently, and you see them in their kitchen, and they're using a magical butter machine, which, by the way, they never mentioned it was magical butter. They said a glorified crock pot, which awfully nice of him when the glorified crock pot kicked in $10,000 to help him move. But anyway, they show him with these leaves and pouring some oil in it, and I could just see watching him do it. Like, that's not going to work. That's not going to work.
That's not the way.
The cannabis isn't activated. You're using leaf. I mean, that's not going to work. And sure enough, they give the oil to her little daughter. She's having epilepsy. She can't. It's not helping her seizures at all. So they were forced to move out of Colorado, even when they finally got through all of Governor Christie's roadblocks. It still wasn't good enough for them.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Such a shame. Well, we'll keep working until families don't have to move. When anybody who wants to use cannabis can do so, as long as they're doing it responsibly, not harming others. That's all we ask. Equality with beer drinkers and cigar smokers. See you in a minute.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
New Approach Oregon is a coalition of Oregon citizens who believe that treating marijuana use as a crime has failed, costing taxpayers millions in law enforcement resources. We believe it's time for a new approach on marijuana, and that Oregonians deserve a chance to decide in the 2014 general election. Our approach will regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana for adults in Oregon. By implementing a strict system to regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana, we can move Oregon forward and create new revenue for critical services. Under our approach for 2014, 40% of funds would support K-12 education, 20% would support mental health and treatment services, and 15% would be dedicated to law enforcement. Public opinion, coupled with victories in Washington and Colorado, confirms marijuana legalization is inevitable. Visit our website at newapproachoregon.com or our page on Facebook at New Approach Oregon. Thank you.
Cannabis Network Radio, starring David Kowalski from Tampa, Florida. Thursdays at 8 a.m. Pacific on 420radio.org.
Ever wonder how often to change your bong water? The most effective method for baking pot brownies? The best destinations for a ganja getaway? How to hide herb in your car? Whether to grow your own? How precisely to legalize it? Or how something as wonderful as marijuana ever got to be illegal in the first place? Finally, you can find all these answers and much more in the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook, featuring 420 things to do when you're stoned. Since 1974, High Times magazine has covered marijuana in all its aspects and wonders, from cultivation to legalization to the herb's enduring and exalted place in popular culture. Packed with inside information, the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook wove all of this collected wisdom together into a single indispensable ganja guide, including an entertaining look at marijuana's history, profiles of herb-friendly travel destinations and festivals, favorite potluck recipes from the High Times staff, smoking skills, advocacy and activism, essential marijuana movies and songs, profiles of famous cannabis strains, comprehensive growing information, celebrity endorsements, and much more. This is truly, finally, the ultimate guide to green living.
No, dear listeners, it's not just you. Kennedy does look like he's about to go full Scanners in that episode, doesn't he? There's a great GIF. It's GIF, Russ. GIF. Don't be such an old fuddy-duddy. I'm sorry, I say GIF every time, but it's GIF. There's a great GIF out there from that movie Scanners. If you've never seen it, sci-fi movie where the guy, where the guy has psychic powers and can make people's heads blow up.
Yeah,
it's a great GIF of that where the guy's head explodes. And I use that anytime I see Patrick Kennedy. Oh my goodness! All right, so
tag it in all the tweets.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Anyway, going back to the Twitter war that I had last night with Christine Tatum, I should say.
Tater.
Yeah.
You won't call her names, but I'll call her names.
I'm trying not to call her names anymore. I did call her Crispy Taters one time.
I'll still call it.
And I shouldn't have done that, but I'm trying. But anyway, yeah, one of the things that's so fun about this, when you argue with these people, is that they'll make a comment, right? Like, and I can't find it in the list, so I'll find it some other day. But
search, Russ.
I don't want to. But basically, she had gone on about how the Colorado tax revenue wasn't enough. And, I called her on it. I said, well, where's the $21 million in harm, right?
Yeah.
And what about the, and I said, just tell me how much harm there is. That's all I've ever asked is like, okay, when you say that, legalizing marijuana isn't going to generate as much tax revenue as the harm it causes. When you make that claim, you are, I'm inferring that you have some data.
Yeah, we're assuming because you are saying.
You say.
In the sense that, you've got figures.
We know that alcohol and tobacco take in 1/10 as much as they cost in social costs. Well, how did you come up with that 1/10? Apparently, you've got data for alcohol and tobacco. You're able to measure in some sort of way, quantify exactly how much danger alcohol and tobacco cause, and it's 10 times more than the tax they bring in. Okay, that's an easy enough equation to solve. Y equals 10x. We can figure that out, right? I took algebra. I can do my ciphering. So with marijuana, I just want the same figure, right? You keep saying that, well, we're never going to bring in the revenues to deal with all the social costs. And ignore for the moment that legalization doesn't invent marijuana. It's not as if there aren't already, if there are, that they don't already exist, right? There's already millions of people smoking pot. If smoking pot costs society something, it's costing it now, right? So forget the fact that we would have already had costs that we weren't raising tax money for. How much more did the costs go up after legalization? Let's even just forget that for a moment. Let's let them include all the existing costs. What are they? What are they? Quantify it. And then when you ask, and I'll ask politely on Twitter, please, since you claim the tax revenue won't cover the costs, tell me what the costs are. Yeah. And every time Christine Tatum will come back and say, well, here, look it up. Why don't you run along and go look that up? Why don't you go run along and find that? No, you made the claim, lady. You back it up. But she did. She sent me this link. One of them had a link in it. Tell me how much this cost the taxpayers. And the link was to these kids, middle school kids, who got caught eating edibles. They'd gotten hold of some edibles and that made them sick, went to the hospital, right? Okay. We can go. Let's go there. Let's quantify that. How much did it cost in the emergency room? How much did it cost for the doctors to deal with these kids? How much did emotional pain and suffering did it inflict upon the parents? How much long-term lasting health damage did it cause to the children? How much time away from school or time away from work for the parents did it cost for them to take their kids in here? I'll bet it don't add up to 2.1 million. We're not saying bad things can't happen. We're saying they're less bad than prohibition. That's all. That's all the time we got for today. Thanks for joining us. Coming up next, as we do every Wednesday at 5 p.m., it's Free Weed with Danny Danko, new episode number 56. And then at 8 o'clock, Red Eyes Reggae Flashback will be online, so come in live for that. I'm Radical Russ. For Brian the Red, thanks for joining us. And until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.
This is your 420 Radio News for Tuesday, March 11th, 2014. I'm Russ Belville. Colorado sold $14 million in recreational marijuana in the month of January, netting $2.1 million in tax revenue. In addition, medical marijuana still outsold recreational marijuana, generating $31 million in sales and netting $1.4 million in taxes. While initial sales figures may be higher than expected due to the rush of customers seeking the novelty of their first legal buy, the few stores that opened often restricted their recreational sales due to low supply. As more stores open and allow more sales and tax figures may rise. However, that may be offset by drops in price as more outlets enter market competition. Governor Hickenlooper's office estimates recreational sales will raise more than $35 million in taxes by the end of June. Anyway,